Good morning, you strange and wonderful weirdos. I'm John.
I'm Stacey.
It's Wednesday, January 18th. And here's why. Today is strange.
All right, so let's start with a little bit more UFO news.
Let's.
And I thought this one was just a really interesting story. And this is about a segment that was done on Tucker Carlson. And this was after, the UFO report that we talked about yesterday. And he brought on our favorite UFO analyst that they talked to, Mr. Nick Pope.
Hey, I'm saying,
former UK Ministry of Defense official.
in case you didn't know it, I used to be in the UK Ministry of Defense. I specialized in UFOs, don't you know?
Yes. And so on this segment that they did, they were talking about the report, and they mentioned that the National Defense Authorization Act, they put that little snippet in there about reviewing the historical documents. And they mentioned a sighting that happened in Roswell, and not the Roswell you thought. Not the 1947, Roswell incident. This was an incident that happened in 1945.
I thought you meant like Roswell, Colorado or something.
Oh, no. Yeah, no. Roswell, New Mexico.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Are we straight?
Not really, but I understand what you mean.
So before the famous Roswell, New Mexico incident, back in 1945, there was supposedly another incident. And according to that story that you don't really find around too much, an object allegedly crashed in the same area, and it was avocado shaped. And after it crashed, a lot of the locals went around and looked at it, and they happened to see some beings in there, according to the story now. And they were able to do that for a little while until the military came and took the whole thing away.
That's where Pearl Jam came from. That explains the Avocado album.
There you are. There you go. You got to figure it out.
They were telling us the whole time, like the Beatles.
Now, this is just a story. It didn't get any press coverage, and, a lot of people didn't talk about it a lot because, they want other people to think they were crazy.
I never heard it, ever.
Supposedly, some people in Congress think that this is a true story and want this to be one of the things that is investigated. In fact, they have to go back to any time after January 1st of 1945. And another thing that I thought was interesting that Tucker pointed out was that this incident happened roughly about the same time that we detonated the first atomic bomb. And so he asked Nick Pope if he thought if that had a correlation to the, the UFO and the nuclear. And
I'll tell you what might have a correlation.
What's
is
that?
Nuclear fusion. Mm-hmm. Is making a little blip of energy that's hotter than the very center of our sun.
Yes.
In a lab right now. Mm-hmm. They just did it after how many years of trying?
So many.
20 years of trying.
So
they've tried it for so long. Mm-hmm. And finally, they recreated it or created it. They pushed a button. It happened. It's that kind of time period where, 60 Minutes did a story on it. And you started seeing it popping up everywhere. But who reads the nuclear fusion ads?
Right.
But, it's really strange because that is something that could possibly, power UFOs.
Yes.
Very strange, but yeah, this is
it's a really interesting
It
piece.
is interesting that they would pick that.
Right. And that is not even something that a lot of people have heard of. I
No.
said, it wasn't
Except
very
for those
popular.
pretentious guys we hang out with at ufology things that would be like, oh, yeah.
Everybody knows about the avocado. Come on.
You've never heard about the avocado. Of course you haven't. You haven't been doing it for 46 years, have you?
If that story's true, that means the military had beings and crafts and stuff even earlier than we thought.
Well, I thought they had it before then.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
You're special.
I am special, but I thought they had it before then. I really did. I thought that they've had it since there's been a government. So.
All right. Well, shall we move on?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about something that's happening in a science lab with mice. Some old mice have grown young again in a study. They believe they have figured out the trick to reversing the aging process. That's amazing. So this is in Boston Labs. They had some mice that they were doing some anti-aging work on, and they spoke in this article to anti-aging expert. His name is David Sinclair. He's a professor of genetics.
They better hope they never teach him how to talk.
At Harvard Medical School.
You wouldn't believe what they're doing to us.
Now, this has been a long process. They've been working on this for decades. And what they figured out is that our bodies hold a backup copy of our youth that can be triggered to regenerate our cells. Supposedly, it challenges the belief that aging is the result of, genetic mutations or disease and things, when really it's not damage that causes us to get old. It's the loss of information in our cells. Our cells just forget what to do. And supposedly,
it's programming.
Yes, exactly. There is a way to trigger the cell to reset itself and start doing what it used to do, and it makes you younger again. And all through this article, it is compared to a computer. They're saying if DNA is your hardware, the epigenome, which is the things they manipulate, that's the software.
Yeah, I picked it up as soon as you started it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the way I guess they use to explain it, but they use the word computer a lot. Hardware, software, they use that a lot. In the thing.
It's something we poppycocked a while back. That's
what we get.
We're in a damn simulation. We're computer programs.
Yeah. The Earth is a computer, and we're just part of it. The whole thing. It's a simulation.
Don't panic.
Now, Sinclair claims that it doesn't matter if the body is 50 or 75, healthy or racked with disease, that once the process has been triggered, the body will then remember how to regenerate and will be young again, even if it's already old and has an illness. Now, what they've been doing in their experiments is they have these mice, and first they started by making a mouse older. They use what they call an ICE, which is inducible changes to the epigenome, because that's the thing they're manipulating.
ICE.
And yeah, that's just the acronym for it. And they messed around with it, and they made a mouse that was 1 year old look twice its age. And then they decided they were going to try and reverse the process. So they started using this cocktail of cells. And we talked about this before. Remember when they found the cells and they were able to make them, take the stem cells back to their very young, first formed? Well, they're using that technology. They're taking those cells, they're injecting them into certain places in the mice, and the mice are getting younger. Blind mice could see again. And they had mice that their brains,
3 perfectly vision mice.
Yeah, exactly. Their muscle and kidney cells, all of those different organ cells, all restored themselves to much younger levels.
You know what? There's going to be a hell of a lot of elite that feel pretty damn dumb right now with all that baby blood on their hands.
Well, and they're pouring a lot of money into this research, obviously. I can't imagine where that's coming from. But they said that the cells, when they use this particular process with the stem cells, that the cells they inject go back between 50 and 75% of the original age, but then they stop. They don't get any younger. Like there's some sort of, they know how far back to go to be younger. And you can do the process more than once. Yes, they did the process more than once on a mouse. So now the funniest thing about this is they don't understand exactly completely how it works, just that it does work. And now that they've done this,
when are human trials beginning?
Well, not for a while. Yeah, I'm sure there's a long line for that. They claim that now that they've been able to do it several times with the mice, they're going to move on to primate trials, but that it would probably be decades before any anti-aging clinical trials in humans begin.
Bull.
So there's no way. Somebody's
you're already
this
doing
now.
it. You dirty.
Somebody's paying for it.
You damn elites. You know you're doing it already. You're doing it already.
Somebody is.
No, you know they are. We see you.
I think it's amazing that it said the process would work more than once. So even like you would get old, you make yourself young again, then you get old, then you'd get young again. I mean, you could just live forever like that. I think. I don't know.
The whole time, the answer's been 42.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, I don't know. They're gonna wake up one day and those mice, something's gonna be wrong with those mice that they're anti-aging. Like there's gonna be some unforeseen problem there that they don't know of.
No, it's not like they care about that.
Well, no, I guess not. As long as they can do what they want to do with the anti-aging.
So what? You're going to have a couple of athletes drop dead or something? I mean, they'll still give it to the mass,
Probably.
Just taking a guess.
Yeah, probably. All right. It's all about the money. All right. Let's move on, shall we?
We better.
Let's talk about a report that came in from the O'Hare International Airport. And this is another sighting of the red-eyed, winged Batman-type creature.
Mothman?
Yes, Mothman at the O'Hare International Airport. Now, this is something that's been happening a lot. There's been tons of sightings, and this particular one was some information that came into the UFO Clearinghouse recently of something that just happened last month.
The UFO Clearinghouse?
That's just the website. It's called UFO Clearinghouse.
I thought like some kind of sweepstakes.
Oh, yeah. With the big checks.
You've just won from the UFO Clearinghouse.
That'd be fantastic.
We're here to abduct you.
They bring balloons, poppers. All right, so a man that claims to be a firefighter.
Ed McAlien.
A firefighter stationed at O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. He stated he wanted to be anonymous, but he said that he was working. And when he was in the middle of his shift, he went out to his truck to get a charging cord for his laptop because he has a laptop at work with him.
Sounds like you're working there, bud.
Well, I mean, he's a firefighter. He has to just sit there until they get a call. So he usually brings his computer with him and works on that. And he ran outside to go grab it and head back in. And as he got his cord, he heard what sounded like a chirping sound, followed by a sort of shuffling noise. And when he looked towards the HVAC plant, and he saw a very tall, thin, human-like creature with its huge wings that were spread out, that it was looking directly at him and had large red eyes that were very intense. And he was guesstimating on the size of it. He said it had to be close to 15 feet wingspan from tip to tip and at least 7 feet in height. And he said it was pretty thin. Its limbs were very thin and long.
And it was like, stop the mice trials. Don't do the mice trials.
Exactly.
Eek.
It said it just looked at him for a few minutes and then took off and flew away. And he just sort of stood there dumbfounded. And then he went inside and he told some of his coworkers what he saw. And they were kind of like, yeah. That happens here. People see it. Something
noob
really interesting about
Check
this
out the
is...
noob.
Oh, what'd you see? A big 6-foot tall Mothman?
Yeah, we've seen it. The chirping and clicking noise that he reported, though, has been reported in at least 4 other cases of citing this at the airport. And I think they listed them as one in September of 2017, one on April of 2018, September
Mothman a lot scarier.
of 2020, and April of 2022.
It's like a man owl.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't realize he was quite that tall. I guess he is supposed to be pretty tall, but it's very interesting that people are still
the chirping.
Yeah, with the weird clicking,
if I see
chirping
Mothman,
noise.
I don't want him, chirping.
I don't want him looking at me with this bright
It's
red
either
eyes.
going to make it not scary and I'm going to get killed because I offend him.
Right.
He's like looking all menacing. I'm like, oh God. He's like, cheep, 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 cheep. I'll lose it.
Well, there's the thought that Mothman supposedly is like a portent of evil, like it's like an omen.
Yeah.
But everybody sees him in Chicago all the time.
Because it's Chicago.
He's always in Chicago at the airport.
For about, 55 people a weekend, it makes perfect sense.
Remind me never to fly out of Chicago
They're like,
airport.
oh,
O'Hare.
shit, Mothman.
So there you go. Another sighting of the O'Hare Airport Mothman.
That's
I mean, that's so many reports. There has to be something. There is something going on
probably
there.
like, help me get back to West Virginia.
I can't figure it out.
The damn airport.
All right. Let's go on to our next story. And this is a story from Florida about a woman who is on trial now because she is being accused of murdering her boyfriend. He died in a suitcase.
He died in the suitcase?
In a suitcase. So her name's Sarah Boone, and according to her, her and her boyfriend on the night in question were drinking and decided to play hide and seek. And then she said she went upstairs and passed out in her bed and didn't wake up for several hours later when she heard her phone ringing. And then she reportedly realized that her boyfriend was possibly still inside the suitcase. So clearly she knew he was in there. And she went and opened it. He was unresponsive and not breathing. And she called 911. And he was dead when the authorities arrived.
What were they drinking?
She was arrested. Wine. She said they were just drinking wine. So very odd set of circumstances here. It's probably the strangest death I've ever heard. Number one, how did he get in the suitcase? I mean, it must have been very large, or he was very small. A contortionist, maybe? I don't know. I don't know how that works.
Elf?
Yeah. She claimed they were playing hide and seek, but obviously she had to zip him in. Because I don't know who they were hiding from or what. I'm like, there's so many holes in this story.
Little bastard's annoying. I'm going to leave him in the suitcase for a little while.
So she's just...
You never find me.
Now, this happened like 3 years ago, and she's just now going to trial. This poor woman's been in
they
jail.
found him 3 years ago, though.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And according to authorities, they said that they found videos on her phone showing her recording him trying to get out of the suitcase. So I don't know where that came from or how that ties into her I passed out story, but I don't think it looks good for her. Isn't that the weirdest thing you've ever heard?
It's terrifying.
It is awful.
I mean,
it's
just thinking about being in a suitcase that you can't get out of.
Right. Why would you get in the first place? I don't know. It's so weird.
I'm with you. I don't understand how we're thinking man-sized man.
I guess so.
There's no way.
And like normal
it's a really big suitcase.
I mean, I guess, my grandmother used to have a suitcase that was like, I remember us going on vacation with like huge suitcases. You can't do that now.
Yeah, but there's the whole having to get into a square type thing.
Right. Like having to bend yourself in there. It's very weird. The whole thing's very
Seems like they would have said contortionist or midget. It seems like that we would have heard one of those.
Right. I feel like that is important.
Do you think there's contortionist midgets?
I don't know.
Or even a call for it?
I have no idea. It's like, can you bend yourself up to get in this bucket? I don't know.
Probably not. I think there's a trouble with
a flexibility issue.
Yeah, like the little legs.
Contortionists are weird.
One of my friends told me it was hard to get their little legs apart. Like, it doesn't matter.
Let's move on, okay? So let's do this last story, shall we?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a story from Iowa. We don't get a lot of stories from Iowa.
No, you don't get a lot of anything from Iowa.
So Ankeny, Iowa. So
some death metal bands, hardcore bands.
At a Central Iowa funeral home was surprised when a woman who was brought to their funeral home, believed to be dead, was in fact not dead. And this is not the kind of thing that you hear happens in America very often.
No, not in the States.
Now, this wasn't like a big news story. This was something that was heard on a scanner, where they heard the fire department being called to come to the funeral home. And the first responder can be heard saying, just so you know, this female was transported there deceased, and she is not. They said that they were in the chapel and they had her laying on a cot. They were calling for cardiac arrest incident, but in fact they were just calling because this woman was there and she wasn't ready to be there at the funeral home yet. Supposedly she was sent by a nursing home, and of course the nursing home will not comment on anything that happened. They haven't
like, grab my mouse.
They haven't given that much detail about the incident, but just a very strange, like not something you expect to happen in America.
On either end, yeah.
Right. Like, they were just like, it's like Monty Python. You go on. I'm not dead yet. You are. Go on.
She crapped one too many a bed for old Susie, the part-time intern.
So they did take her to a hospital, but there's no word on how she's doing now. So I hope they find her a new nursing home.
Yeah.
Or a new nurse or something.
Yeah, I don't want to go to a nursing home.
No, me neither.
I'm sure there's a lot of good, reputable nursing homes out there that are probably watching us right now rather than taking care of your patients. But, other than those...
Right.
Because those are classy people. They're at least watching us.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go. I would rather, I want to fend for ourselves.
Yes, I want to be eccentric old people in our house where we stare
Even
out the windows.
Even if we have to get out in the woods somewhere, away from people that actually care, make the kids think we're all dead and whatever. Just, I don't want to be put in a home. No matter how crazy we get.
No, I just want to be crazy at home.
Yeah, together.
Yes.
You can be crazy as loons.
There you go.
So that would be like a normal Tuesday.
Exactly. And then we can just die together, and then someone can find us later, and it'd be a nice surprise for them.
Will you stuff me in a suitcase?
If you ask me to.
Well, it'd be fun to try.
Okay. I'll have to get a decent sized suitcase. You're pretty tall.
That's why. Today is strange.